Okay. Section 1, announcements and highlights. Okay, cool. Next up, questions, issues, PRs. This is a section specifically for any community members who are here who, if you want to bring something or have any questions or looking for any help with something.
Looks like it's just you, Trail of Bits, and Zach here today.
You know, I still want to give people a chance.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know Trail of Bits has a couple of PRs open, but I don't think that we need to discuss any at this moment.
I have an agenda.
No, I know. So I'm passing the floor to somebody else.
I actually have something. We have an issue with some of the repositories that we use for the submodules. There's the GNU pg.org repository that sometimes it doesn't work. We rely on it for GPG error and libgcrypt. I ended up making a mirror of those repositories under the Osquery organization. Someone will have to make a pull request to update the links.
We have issues with the repo.
Yeah, those two repos sometimes just go offline when you attempt to clone through the HTTPS protocol.
Oh yeah,
and
I saw this issue yesterday. Somebody brought it up.
They just stop working for a couple of days sometimes, and the only way to clone is to use the SSH protocol, which we try to avoid because it is open to man-in-the-middle attacks.
It's sort of interesting because I feel like in avoiding that, you're incurring a lot of management overhead. In that keeping our mirrors up to date is an extra set of steps around what is already a pretty arduous process.
Yeah, it is some added overhead, though we did notice in the past that some projects were push forcing on master, which wasn't ideal. So there is also that.
I mean, don't we reference everything by Shaw?
Yeah, in theory, yes.
I was taking a note.
But sometimes they just move tags around.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we can come back to that. So, release 450. I think that's probably the biggest agenda item, really. Question was, is it stable? And sounds like not.
There is this tiny bug in the Windows _ event log table, so the on-demand one, not the evented table, that causes a crash if you attempt to specify the wrong path for the event source. And it has been fixed in that pull request. I think it is the only known bug issue we have right now in this release.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any others.
I haven't seen anything in the deployments we've pushed out. We also don't make heavy use of any of these tables, so no surprise that we haven't seen that. Let's see. So this is a new table. Trying to decide, like, do I think this is enough that we should basically just go cut a 451 and not call 450 stable, or what? People want to weigh in on that?
So if you make an error in how you create the query, you could crash Osquery.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. We have already tagged 450, right? Not as a draft.
450 is tagged and the packages are built. If we decide that we don't want to declare it stable, we will cut a 451.
I see.
This is the current version scheme is to not retag, but simply increment. So major is usually going to be 4. Minor will just keep sort of incrementing when we cut releases. And then the whatever the builder patch, the third one is kind of just, well, how many did we find?
Said he merged about 5 PRs to the Carver table. I don't know if those are fixes.
He's doing a bunch of refactoring. Some of them are fixes and some of them are just straight up refactoring.
So if we did a 4.5.1, it would include, I guess,
Yes.
a couple of things that
Correct.
aren't fixes.
Correct.
That's okay with me.
We have generally taken the stance of not thinking too hard about release engineering because it's an easy space to spend a lot of time in like Git shenanigans.
Agreed.
So, you know, we could cut a 451, could be good enough. I'm a little uncomfortable pushing something that has a known crash in it to stable. I think the counterpoint is that it's a new table, so it's not like we're breaking anything. And 450 does have fixes, so it sort of improves things, but I still feel very ambivalent. I don't know, maybe it's a conversation for Slack.
If it's not too much work to do a 4.5.1, I like that. You know, the fixes go in to sort of finish the work, and it seems like if we don't do a release, then the customer that paid us to do that is just going to build from source, you know?
I mean, they can use 450.
Well, they'll be using master. They won't be using our release.
No, we can probably cut a 451. I don't think it's that hard. It takes time for us to sort of go through it.
Yeah, and I know it's someone else's time, so I'm just saying if it's not too much trouble, I do favor that we do a 451.
I'm good with that. I'd say let's talk about it on core and Slack and see if anyone agrees or disagrees.
Sounds good.
Note taking. So I wanted to maybe chat really briefly about the endpoint security framework.
Yeah.
Last time we talked, we weren't sure how to add in the appropriate bits to code signing in CPAC or whatever the CMake thing is, and I said I would try and take a look at that. I was unable to find an example that I could make a simple, like I couldn't make myself a simple endpoint security thing that I could compile outside of Xcode. I did not try compiling Charvel's branch, which might have been simpler.
I can compile on command line, and since CMake just uses sub-processes.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, do you have like a snippet that I can compile or something?
I don't have my own.
Latency.
I'm saying all the examples I could find were like just giant and involved a lot of Xcode, and I didn't want to go down that path. But if you have, you know, a relatively simple file that I could read and vet and like a, you know, Clang command line, I can play with it.
Yeah. So my branch is dirty right now. It has a lot of merge conflicts that I've just resolved, and that's work in progress. But I can give you a gist link with like a simple, like a 100-line.
That'd be perfect.
And like the Clang options to compile it.
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
So I do an ad hoc signing because I still haven't. I don't have my own provisioning certificate. I can go poke around and get those, but
Well, if
it's
you
just convenient to
contact me to get added to our Apple team.
Okay.
I haven't figured out. I haven't figured out how to add other people to the Apple team. This is not a technical question. I haven't figured out the semantics of what that would mean.
You invite them by email address.
This is not a technical question.
Okay.
So I don't want to go down that route. But if you send me 100-line gist or something, I'll read it, sanity check it, and then attempt to iterate on what a provisioning profile looks like.
Okay. It will be tomorrow though, since it's
That's
close
fine.
to 11 p.m. here, and I've had a long day. So.
Oh, thanks for still being here.
Yeah. No worries.
Yeah, tomorrow's fine. Whenever's convenient. I just couldn't find, I could find samples, but I couldn't figure out the clang command line because I'm not super familiar with it. So whatever you find and send to me, I'll iterate with.
Sure.
I know you said it wasn't a technical issue, but did you mean what are the practical concerns about adding people to the team?
Yes.
You could mitigate that by giving them only developer role and only adding them to developer provisioning profiles, so they can't sign anything that runs outside their machine.
I don't understand that set of options well enough yet. So I understand that at a 10,000 foot level, but I'd have to understand it at a 1,000 foot level to feel happy.
I could try to engage you on that outside in chat or something.
What's the mechanism to enforce that?
Well, the provisioning, the provisioning profile signs code that is only valid for a machine preloaded with the accompanying, I guess, private cert, which Xcode manages it for you. So a little bit of that is behind the curtains, but it will not run on a machine without your development certs installed. And also that development machine has a machine ID, and that machine ID is also part of the signing. So literally if I have a second VM, I have to add that into the team as a second identifier, or device, I mean.
So the way I think about it is, if you're signed into your Apple ID, it's not technically correct, but you can on that machine you can sign your own code, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm taking. I mean, I guess if this is, I feel like this is something Apple probably supports, and I think I'm comfortable going that route, but I do kind of want to be a little leery of making sure that it really is developer machine oriented and not, not something that can kind of leak out.
We can do yours first and you can verify.
Yeah, I feel like I just have to read docs probably.
I mean, it might be easier if I do a screen share, you do a screen share with me, and I'll point to
something
things.
like that. Yeah, maybe we can do that. Okay, so let's try and find time so you can give me an overview of how that works, and then we can set it up.
Okay.
The other thing I think we never really resolved on, maybe we don't have to resolve it now, on Charvel's branch was whether we wanted a different table or the same table, or where we left that all.
I think we resolved it at last hour's office hours or last time's. It's a different name currently.
Cool. Okay, great.
Yeah, and the other thing, I've opened a new pull request for the Azure pipeline because we are still running Mojave, and we kind of need Catalina for all this. So it's a draft PR. It works. It picks up Catalina. There are a couple of flaky tests regarding Wi-Fi and apps table, but they have been failing on older PRs as well.
Catalina specifically, or not new?
No, it's not new. It's been failing on like older PRs that have been running on Mojave as well. So it's flaky because sometimes I've seen it pass, sometimes it fails, and it's only Mac OS though.
Does this? So this moves the build machine to Catalina from Mojave. Does it change the target SDK version?
No, it does not change the target SDK.
Cool.
The target SDK is still 10.12, though I think we should move it to 10.13, but that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah, it's like literally a one character PR.
Yeah, it is. It is. I was pleasantly surprised by how simple that change turned out to be.
Nice. Cool. I'll link it into the minutes. I'm tentatively in favor of that. That sounds wonderful. Thank you. Okay, and Mike, you and I'll maybe take up the Apple signing stuff.
Yeah. We tracking the flaky tests for Catalina? I mean, I'll look for it in the issues. It's probably a label.
I mean,
So I
hear
think the
we
Wi-Fi
have
one
flaky
is
tests label.
Yeah, there's a test. Yeah.
So I think the Wi-Fi one is valid because there are some key changes between Catalina and Mojave, which I think you have a PR.
I started. Yeah. I did a floppy for draft PR, and then I got distracted. Teddy has a change, just a minor thing. He wants it to be cleaned up a little bit. That's why it's draft.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else on endpoint security framework? If not, next up. I got an interesting ping from someone at the Linux Foundation who wants to sort of chat with people about like what the Linux Foundation can do to help projects. Anyone interested in talking? I'm interested. Teddy might be.
I can join. Yeah, count me in.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to join that as well.
Maybe you can get the whole committee.
At least two of them aren't likely to show up, let's say.
Yeah.
But okay, I'll ping Teddy as well. Okay. Code reviews. It's probably a different section, but that's cool. I don't know if there's anything you want to talk about on these, or people just would like some code review to happen.
Yeah, so the BPF one is kind of big, and it is not yet ready, but since it is big, it would be nice if people would start looking at it, if they have time. So if feature-wise, it is ready. I'm only implementing the missing test.
What about the one you had open for the draft from February, the Git adder info tracer?
I will work on it after this pull request is done.
So it doesn't replace that one.
Yeah, they're different.
Okay. All right.
We'll try and get them reviewed, I guess. This is where I wrote down the building with third-party repos that we've mostly talked about. I think the thing I'm most concerned about on this is that the process for dealing with our dependencies is already very hard. So I don't know if there's a solution to that. Might just be some more documentation, but for the process there is pretty tough.
The only other way is to start using tarballs, maybe.
It feels like tarballs would It feels like we don't really want to rebuild. Like we're still rebuilding all of them every build, right? Modulo CC cache.
Yes.
So it feels like the kind of thing that would be better as like a, we should build them and then we should cache them as built tarballs and then undo the builds or something. But I don't know. I feel like we have this sort of mutter about this like every 4 months.
Yeah, that's true. We should try to maybe write down a blueprint issue, see if we can approach this and how.
Okay, maybe I'll take myself a note here. Blueprint for Osquery third-party builds. I just think if we actually get it right, it will dramatically cut our build times.
Yeah, well, mostly for developers. The
And
easiest
CI.
way. Well, I don't think that for the CI it changes much. We already have caching in there. And the next thing we get from this is that if we change any of the compilation flags or interface targets that define the build settings, we automatically update everything.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess my experience with caching systems and other build systems is that just the file system operations around like trying to run a build, pulling it from the cache, that add pretty significant overhead. So even if the caches are hot, it's still a pretty significant amount of time to recurse through everything.
Oh, you meant the CI cache? Yeah.
So, okay. Anyhow, I'll try and open a blueprint and we can at least talk about it there and ignore it or something. Let's see. Teddy threw a couple of notes in under various. Let's see. So let's see. There's a documentation updates. I don't know if anyone is interested in taking on some doc updates, or wonder if that's the kind of thing we can get a Hacktoberfest person in excited for or something.
I was up for that. And I guess more specifically, okay, it looks like process auditing.
Yeah, we've overhauled it a little bit. So if you want to take a pass at that, you've been doing a bunch of the other doc updates. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I had a couple more I wanted to do. One was related to build instructions, making sure everything there was current and complete. And then 2 was, I think we have a few undocumented command line flags. It's come up in chat, and I know the recent addition of a couple for the Yara table that those aren't documented. So those are some things.
I am excited to review any documentation PRs you or anyone else put up.
Cool.
Okay, blog post. So if anyone is excited to write a blog post about Osquery and containers, there's some kind of exciting stuff in there.
We should be one. We had a couple of extra things we wanted to finish, actually related to containers, before we got pulled off. Stefano here? No?
No, he is in PTO.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we had a couple of extra things that were in flight on our end that would have been nice to finish before we were talking about containers, but I guess we don't have to. We could talk about, I guess, what was that, like Q2 work that added additional container support. That's what Teddy's referring to. Oh, okay. Like 10.4, I guess. Not 10.4.
Oh,
4.4.
we did. Stefano did the stuff about PID namespacing. So I suspect there's PID namespacing stuff. Because there's a couple of places where we can swap into a virtual thing.
Okay, well, we should maybe start with an outline to see what we want to write about.
I don't know who is stepping up to that. So
I think we're a little bit constrained right now, but we would.
trail of blogs.
Yeah, trail of blogs.
Well, if you ever pick it up, I'm figure out how to link them somewhere.
Yeah.
So last item here is a question about alternative CIs. So I'm not totally sure what the motivations are behind this question. I would assume something about platform support, especially for AAR64. My gut sense is that our CI is incredibly painful because of how long builds take, and it makes it relatively hard to move around. So I feel like we need to kind of get CI down to a manageable length of time before we talk a whole lot about other vendors. They also start feeling, I don't know, I use Circle at Collide and they're okay. Their pricing is hard to understand. I don't get good feelings about Travis. Ever since they got acquired, they kind of seem to be bit rotting. GitHub Actions is interesting, but I don't think has more platform support than Azure does right now. We do, I think, maybe now have some Amazon credits for ARM64 machines, which maybe got approved this week that I haven't stared too hard at. So
what's that motivation for? And I know Azure is not everyone's favorite, but what's their prime reason to consider alternatives right now?
I haven't the faintest idea. I don't know why I don't know why Teddy put this here. He may have put it here.
So at least for signing, the current CI system belongs to Trail of Bits, and you would have to store the signing keys on there. And it is also a challenge for us to put people in the admin team if they aren't working for Trail of Bits. So we at least need to move this account somewhere. This could also be another Azure owned by Osquery.
Yeah, that's more of an administrative ownership issue.
So for example, Ceph, you cannot restart a build that has failed.
Mm-hmm.
And neither can I, unless I create an account and get added to the admin group.
Yeah, I feel like, sorry, I don't know. CI is terrible. I should revisit the GitHub Actions PR I started, but that won't solve the ARCH64 support problem without going through additional trouble around, you know, manually spinning up agents in strange places. But it'll at least solve sort of the management and overhead problem.
Yeah, in theory with Azure, I think we do have support for IR64 if we download their agent and install it on the Graviton machine.
That's kind of a hacky approach, right? It's like we can run the agent on that. And we should figure out how to run the agent on the Apple Silicon box that's sitting on my desk too. But you know, those are kind of like roundabout ways. I don't know.
Would those same agents be compatible with the GitHub Actions as well?
GitHub Actions has a different set of agents, but they're sort of fundamentally similar. I should revisit the GitHub Actions thing because I got it working, but I had some CI failures, and the CI failures may have been spurious CI failures. I kind of just didn't look too hard. I don't know. I guess I can also evaluate Circle CI for Arch64 support. AMD64 support, excuse me. Travis, I just feel so, I don't know, I feel very burnt out on Travis. So, I don't quite know what to say.
I've had experience with both, but I think we left Travis because they were very slow to add new platforms. New versions of Linux, I think, were a problem for a long time.
I basically left them because builds just started failing and timing out a lot. And after they got acquired, it seemed like they pulled all of their resources out. So
that is what I've seen also.
They might be back a little bit now. I'm not sure.
Now, don't yell at me, but we could use them both. I mean, use like GitHub Actions for most of everything if we want, and then use like Azure for that odd and strange platform.
I mean, we could use Travis, for Arch64, for example.
Yeah.
I think the biggest downside to that is just our build still feels very fragile, and I think that's the third-party issue that we should maybe talk through in that blueprint issue. I don't know if anyone wants to put effort into this right now.
We probably should. However, my biggest issue right now, or rather priority, is finishing BPF. After this, I can map out things.
Okay. Well, let's figure out, I guess, what happens after that. Maybe it's maybe like as a first pass, we just work on the Amazon account we have and spin up Arch64 machines running an agent or something. Or play with Apple Silicon. Either way, it's same stuff.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm on board with this idea of spinning up agents on strange kinds of hardware that we can't easily get within the CI systems.
Yeah, we may have to find a way to make sure we do not compromise your box with a rogue pull request. But yeah.
I mean, that's why it exists in a dedicated segment on my network.
Yeah.
One of the interesting questions is, I think a lot of these alternate architectures don't necessarily support containers or virtualization or Docker, so a lot of the obvious choices aren't there.
There is no Docker support in there?
I can tell you, I haven't tried. Because Docker somewhat ends up doing emulation, so Docker may mostly be like working on the emulated x86 stack.
It feels like when we were young and we moved to x64.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty early on some of this. Okay, I don't know if anyone has anything else. Sorry, I was saying, I don't know if anyone has anything else.
Yes, and I don't. I think we have pull request reviews at the end, but we've done so well with closing all the PRs. I don't think there's any that really we could review.
Well, happy to return time to everyone. So,
All right.
thank you all.
And Seth, you can let me know when's a good time, maybe tomorrow or later today. You can chat about provisioning profiles.
You want to chat now?
Sure. Yeah, we can stay on the call and do it here.
If possible, can I stay on as well?
Yeah, Charvel knows a lot about this too.
Sure.
If he's going to stay up some more.
Great, thanks, y'all.
Sure. I mean, I guess anyone is welcome to hang out. I don't think we're going to do anything that's privileged. So
We'll stop recording now.
okay.